Our first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband to lose the entitled attitude and do stuff for himself? Just recently, my husband, 31, was promoted to assistant manager of the warehouse. We both work on the ups of 50 hours a week. I am shift manager at a behavioral disorders facility. Both jobs are very hands-on and strenuous. Since his promotion, he has developed an entirely different attitude. Extremely entitled, and dare I say, rude as all hell. He is always boasting and bragging. This has been going on for 3 weeks. So some examples are as followed. On his days off, he wants the house to be radio silent. If our 4-year-old wants to play, he tells her to stick to her bedroom because he needs peace and quiet after working so hard. If I make our daughter lunch, he will immediately say, "Where's mine?" He asks me to grab him things damn near, constant all hours of the night. He expects nightly back rubs, but if I ask, he will scoff at me and say, "I worked all day, even if I had as well." He expects meals that he likes made every night, regardless of me or our daughter like the meal or not. He also now acts like he has full say over the money because he makes more. Last night was a tip of the iceberg for me. Before this, I let a lot of stuff slide because it was a recent promotion and hell, he's excited. So I get it. But last night around like 11 p.m., I was in bed scrolling through my phone. He comes into the bedroom, lays down and says, "Babe, you should go make some ice cream. I want the chocolate drizzle on it. And oh, don't forget the cashews." Then he starts scrolling through his phone. I ignored it, because I feel at this point I was going to snap. He then shook my leg and said, "Did you hear me?" So I responded with, "Yeah, I did hear you. And no, go make it yourself. You were literally just out there. Your sense of freaking entitlement is way out of line. Do stuff for yourself." He became offended and instantly, like freaking clockwork, said, "But I worked all freaking day." So I snapped back with, "Yeah, I did too. In fact, I worked 12 hours to your 8. Like I said, do stuff for yourself." He is now saying that he is not acting entitled and that I was just taking my bad day out on him and that everything I said makes him feel unappreciated. Am I the a-hole? Did I push it too far? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Someone needs to knock your husband off his high horse. You two need to have a serious talk that at home, you're equals and he's not the boss. Hell, if he's treating employees like this, things won't go well at work either. Husband and I work an equal amount of hours, so we split the chores and take turns cooking. Sounds like he needs to pitch in too. Not the a-hole. He sounds like he's on a power trip. Had a coworker, great guy, get promoted to a management position and start acting like this. He lasted 2 months before he get demoted and reprimanded. He went from a great guy to a braggart, and he had started talking to us like we were idiots. A week later, I was given the promotion and made sure I stayed grounded/kind to everyone. If you don't nip his entitlement in the bud, someone else will do it and it won't be pretty. Not the a-hole. And if that's how your husband is acting at work, his stint as an assistant manager will be a short-lived one. For the sake of his career, he needs to learn the difference between being a boss and being a leader. I'll bet he is throwing his weight around at work. The OP should keep a close watch for a change in behavior that could indicate Mr. Smart Alec was warned about his behavior once his employees got sick of it. Yep, I've had assistant managers like this. They get high on their ego and completely screw up the workplace. That's a danger of promoting someone that has not had any leadership training. Not the a-hole. Girl, nip this in the bud now before it goes any further. I understand he got a promotion, but he needs to reel it in. Tell him to grow up, stop acting like a child. You work just like him, and make him stop throwing money in your face. Also, just because his job is strenuous doesn't give him the right to act like a D. Good luck. Exactly. Lots of people have strenuous job. That's why it's called work. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to step up as a mother? So I, 33 male, have been married to my wife, 31 female, for 6 years. 2 years ago, we adopted our 2 kids, 7 female and 5 male, from Haiti. They were toddlers when we brought them home, so we had never really been through the newborn stage. Well, my wife and I decided to have a biological baby. She's currently 5 months old. Well, when she was born, my wife decided she needed to make up for all the lost time she was pregnant, and in doing so, kinda left all the childcare on me. My wife loves the baby and cuddles with her, but the second she starts crying, my wife hands her over to me. She knows how to change a diaper, but she believes it isn't her job. It was never something we agreed upon, like some weird deal where we agreed she would carry the baby for 9 months and I would raise it. We formula feed, which I prefer, but I can't leave her home alone with the baby. Basically, yesterday, I had to take my 7-year-old to a soccer game. I left my wife with the baby, as she was just sleeping in her crib. My wife called me mid-game and screamed at me about leaving the baby with her. She said that she had pooped, and I had to come back and clean it up. I asked if she knew how to change a diaper. She used to be a full-time nanny, and she said yes, but it's not her job. I drove back home, changed the baby, and took her back to the soccer game. By the time I came back, there were only about 10 minutes left. One of the other moms told me that my daughter had been switched to center midfield and scored 3 times in a row and basically won for her team. I was so proud. When she was done, she asked me why the baby was here and I said I had to go pick her up. Then she asked if I had seen her while she was center mid, and I told her the truth. She was so upset and wouldn't talk to me. I of course didn't badmouth my wife to her. I offered to go get her ice cream, but she wasn't in the mood. When we got back home, I heard her crying to my wife. I obviously don't mind her venting to my wife, but my wife was saying things like, "Yeah, he shouldn't have done that," and "I'm so sorry he treated you like that," even though I told her on the phone that I was going to miss part of the game if I came and picked the baby up. My wife and I got in an argument later. I told her that she actually has to care for the baby, and she basically called me selfish and lazy. We go to a marriage counselor. We don't have many problems in our marriage, but we had to do it for the adoption and we ended up sticking with it, as well as our own therapists. The marriage counselor has ruled out postpartum, and she has suggested for my wife to do more with the baby, but she doesn't want to. Here's where I am definitely the a-hole. She said, "Stop acting like you're my slave or something. I'm Haitian, black, and she is white." I then snapped back, "Well, you need to step up as a parent." I know I'm the a-hole for saying that to her, but am I the a-hole for genuinely thinking it? Edit 1. Her therapist is technically called a psychiatrist, and I'm pretty sure they can make a diagnosis, but correct me if I'm wrong. 2. I meant we didn't have problems when we started counseling. Edit. I made it up to my daughter. I messaged all of the moms I knew and was able to find someone who got a video of her scoring. I showed her and she was so happy. We are having a late celebration at McDonald's, in case anyone cares. Edit 3. I put this in a comment, but she was raised by a single father. It's not really my information to share why though. Now let's read the top comments of this post. Not the a-hole. She said that our daughter had pooped and I had to come back and clean it up. I asked if she knew how to change a diaper. She used to be a full-time nanny, and she said yes, but it's not her job. It's both of your jobs. Whoever is with the baby when she needs to be changed is the one who should change her. That's called being a parent. Asking you to come home from your other daughter's soccer game was completely unreasonable. But subsequently throwing you under the bus to the same daughter is beyond the pale. Right now, your wife is being a crappy spouse to you and a crappy mother to all her children. This needs to stop. And you should have not gone home to change the baby. You are enabling her behavior. Not the a-hole. I think her comment, "Stop acting like you're my slave," is the epitome of a Freudian slip. You didn't say anything about being a slave, right? Somewhere in her mind, she feels you're beneath her. Then she twisted the situation into you being the bad guy. She wants to be a mom and wife without the effort. I'm sorry you're in this situation. Edited to add, you're a good man and father. No, I never mentioned the word slave or anything related. It kinda came out of nowhere. Dude, as a white woman myself, that comment made me sick to my stomach. Has your wife ever showed signs, even subtle ones, of being a racist? Because that's a messed up thing for her to say. No, we don't speak about race that much, but when we do, she's never said anything that could be considered racist before. Not the a-hole. She treats you like a slave and gaslights you in front of your daughter. She needs a new therapist because clearly the current ones aren't working. The sooner the better, because she's already poisoning the kids against you, and you don't want your relationship with them to suffer. With the way she speaks about it, / bonds with our baby, both of her therapists, her personal one is technically a psychiatrist, have ruled out postpartum. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for giving my wife an ultimatum? My wife and I have been married for 15 years. We are child-free and in our early 40s. A major reason why we are child-free is that my wife grew up in an abusive home, and a huge fear of hers is that she would perpetuate that cycle of abuse. She's been in therapy for as long as I've known her, and she's been pretty open with me about her childhood, but not completely. She says she isn't keeping much from me, but I have a feeling she's leaving out the worst stuff. She has 3 younger siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. My wife pretty much raised them on her own growing up, and she has a very strong mama bear instinct when it comes to her siblings. About 2 years ago, one of her brothers OD'd and my wife asked if he could live with us. I agreed on the expectation that he would go to rehab, and that one relapse and he's gone. To his credit, he worked hard at rehab, got himself clean, and has been living with us ever since. He works full-time doing construction and has saved a decent amount of money. He wants to buy a house but has no credit history, so I've been helping him build his credit score and has told him I would consider co-signing a loan if he needed it. I've been really impressed by how well he has done for himself. About 6 months ago, my sister-in-law was on our front steps in tears with her 3 kids. I have not gotten the full story from my sister-in-law, but from what my wife told me, sister-in-law had an affair. Her husband found out. They were both drunk and got into a fight, and sister-in-law told her husband that her affair partner was better in bed and husband kicked her out. As far as I know, no divorce process has been started yet. Sister-in-law and the kids have been staying with us since then. We don't have a big house, so it is way too crowded and, in my opinion, not sustainable. I don't like sister-in-law. She doesn't discipline her kids. They don't clean up after themselves. Sister-in-law has made no effort to find a job. She gets drunk in our home. I hate it. There was no one single moment where I realized that sister-in-law needed to leave. But I had a conversation with my wife and told her that I can't stand sister-in-law and her kids living here any longer. I told her that sister-in-law needs to start looking into other options. They have overstayed their welcome. My wife accused me of playing favorites with her siblings, that we've allowed her brother to stay for years. We can't just kick sister-in-law and her kids out. I said we aren't kicking them out. We are going to tell them that they have X amount of time to figure out other options. My wife said that I have no idea what sister-in-law is going through and what it's like to live with an abuser. I agreed with her, but I felt that the situation sister-in-law was in with her husband wasn't the same as their childhood. Sister-in-law got herself into this situation. It is not our responsibility to get her out of it. I told my wife that if sister-in-law and her kids were not out of the house by the end of the year, that I would move out myself. She looked shocked when I said that and called me an a-hole as she walked away. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I was your wife, oldest child of an abuser who cared for my siblings. It took me destroying several relationships to realize I had to stop setting myself on fire to care for them. Your wife genuinely believes her siblings need her, and to a certain extent they do. However, what she is doing is enabling your sister-in-law, not supporting her. Support looks like what you're doing for your brother-in-law, which is conditions that help support him being healthy, developing a stable life, and creating a plan for his future, saving for a home of his own. This is a great example of helping. What she is doing for sister-in-law is enabling because it in no way supports her changing her own life and thus becoming more independent. By not working, effectively parenting, and being drunk, she is continuing that same cycle with her own children, in your home and on your dime. I don't blame you for being upset one bit. I will say, before you give up, invite your wife to therapy so she can examine this dynamic with the therapist and really unpack why she thinks this is helping, why her bond with them is more important than the one in your marriage, and finally, how to stop. My wife and I have been in couples counseling since my brother-in-law moved in. I probably should have included that in the post. We have been with the same therapist for the last 18 months. My wife doesn't see how I can be so willing to help one of her siblings and not the other. For her, all it takes is to see one of her siblings in need, and she jumps in and is willing to do whatever it takes to help. I don't have that same instinct, and I feel like brother-in-law did a great job of helping himself to get better. Sister-in-law has shown none of that same desire or attitude, so of course I am going to treat them differently. Their two situations are not the same. Info. Has the specific topic of your sister-in-law and how you feel about the situation been brought up in therapy? Yep, on many occasions. My wife agrees that the situation is not sustainable and that it is putting stress on our marriage. But as soon as we get home and she is faced with the idea of her sister and the kids out on their own, she caves. She just can't stand to see one of her siblings in need and not help. Not the a-hole. Your wife needs to decide whether she wants to live with and enable her sister or whether she wants to remain married. Not the a-hole. She essentially gave you an ultimatum first. that marrying her means doing whatever she likes with her family in a take-it-or-leave-it situation with no input from you. That's not fair. It's not right, and it's absolutely not sustainable in a partnership. You called her on it and offered up a reasonable solution that she again unilaterally decided wasn't okay. You're asking for a way to preserve your marriage and your sanity. She's telling you her family comes first. I'd be looking into divorce on that basis alone. God, could you imagine the lies that would get spread about Opie abusing her if she left her? Sadly, yes. Better to start telling family and friends now why you're looking at this decision in the first place.
My ex's life is going downhill, and she's blaming me for it. For context, I met her when me and her went to the same tuition classes and were in the same grade. And after a year or so of knowing each other, she decided to ask me out. I of course said yes, because at the time I was really into her too, but didn't show it as to not ruin our friendship. Fast forward a year and we were still together, and yes, we had our problems in the relationship because of her strict parents, but made it work. Meanwhile, she also had a boy best friend back in her home country, whom she knew even before meeting me, and I was okay with them being friends, because I don't really find a problem with that, and it seemed like he was a good guy. So after a couple of weeks after our first year together, she went back to her home country for 2 months, and during that time, she had gone to meet him almost every day and they hung out every day for 2 months straight. She even slept over at his house a couple of times. At first I had some doubt about the guy, so I talked with her about it, and she reassured me that they were just friends, and I don't need to worry about anything. She even gave me her passwords for her accounts and told me to check whenever I feel any doubts about her. When she came back, she was a whole different person from who she was before she got addicted to vaping, and was all around acting very different from how she usually acts. This did strike me as odd, but it wasn't a big deal for me at the time. And then one day after a couple of months, I was at her place with her best friend, and she went to the grocery store to get some snack before watching some movies together. And while she was out, her best friend started crying, and told me that girlfriend cheated on me with him while she was in her home country, and she had other accounts that she used to talk to him, which I didn't know about. I asked her why she told me now and not when it all happened, and how did she know. She said that she felt guilty about it seeing both of us so happy, and she felt like I needed to hear the truth about everything. She then showed me proof of everything in her phone, which had my girlfriend's alt account logged in, and I read everything, and saw pictures of what had happened between her and her boy best friend. I was shocked as to how so much could have happened, and I didn't even have a clue. I was heartbroken, so before she came back, I took photos of everything as proof and left and went home, telling her friend that when she comes back, just to tell her that I had an emergency and had to go home. After a couple of days of acting like nothing happened, I was mentally preparing myself to break up with her, because she was still talking to her boy best friend every day like nothing had happened. I broke the news on a Tuesday night via text and asked her why she did what she did. The hard part is, she didn't even try to deny anything, and just said it was a one-time thing, etc., and that she is sorry and wanted to be with me and no one else. Even said that if I wanted to, she would cut all contact with her boy best friend even on her alt account, which I told her I knew about. I told her no and said it's best we break up, and blocked her on everything after that. She even found out her best friend told me about everything, and she cut contact with her best friend after that. A couple of weeks later, she tried calling me multiple times with different phone numbers to talk to me. But whenever I found out, I blocked that number, and eventually with the help of my friends, I got over it. And apparently, she did too after that. She then started to date her boy best friend for around 6 or 7 months. Her girl best friend told me about all this. But then somewhere around October of 2022, her boy best friend and couple of guys violated her. After that, she told the girl best friend everything that had happened, and she was very self-harming after that. After her friend told me what happened, I unblocked her, and she called and asked me to meet up with her just to talk. I of course rejected it at first, but after considering her mental health and everything, I agreed, and we met up in a small cafe in my city. She told me that she made a mistake and wanted me back, and that she regretted everything, and it was her fault in the end. I told her that what happened with her was horrible, and it shouldn't happen to anyone. But as for us getting back together, I couldn't trust her anymore, and told her I was already dating someone else. She threatened to unalive herself, but I said that's not going to change my mind about us getting back together. I told her if she needed help with anything other than that, I'm here, but that's where I draw the line. And then I left. She went silent for a while, and I thought maybe she's working on herself and trying to forget her past, and I moved on with my own life. Then I got the news from a couple of our mutual friends that she tried to end herself. And when she was asked why she did it, she said it's my fault because I left her. At that point, everyone in on our mutual big friend group is blaming me for her attempt and talking bad about me because apparently it's my fault that she tried to do it. I'm very low contact with the mutual friend group now, and I only talk to my close friends about this. I just need help as to what to do at this point. I'm lost now. I'm thinking maybe it was my fault for breaking up with her, which led to bad things happening. If anyone knows what to do, please help me. Now for the top advice. Don't ever contact her again, block her forever. And about those people, send a message explaining everything, express your disappointment about their attitude, then block them too. They choose to judge you after hearing one side of the story, so they don't deserve that you waste your time with them anymore. You don't need drama in your life after all she put you through. And the fact that she blames you shows how irresponsible and toxic that girl is. Keep your close friends, move on with your life without caring anymore about her. You can't put all the pain of everyone on your shoulder. Being kind, it's good, but don't accept being treated like trash. This, to the T. Explain, block, and live your best life. She cheated on me, she didn't even deny it, I dumped her. If you have any issues, take it up with the group of boys that violated her, as I was well beyond the point of having her in my life by that time. Blaming me for her problems is another problem she's adding to her growing list. If that bothers you, feel free to stop talking to me, as your opinion on the matter is meaningless. What you need to do is wake up. Did you cheat? Were you unfaithful? So that toxic friend group, why can't you just cut them off and block them? You don't need them. If they want to be idiots and believe her and talk crap about you, then they aren't good people. No one should stay with anyone who cheats. She chose her own path, no one made her do anything. She chose to bet her boy best friend, she made that choice. She got violated because of her own choices. Why do you feel bad when you know your worth? Honestly, if I were you, I'd ask that toxic friend group what would all of them had done if someone cheated on them, then got violated because of the choices they made, then tries to blame them for the person trying to end themselves. So the idiot friend group would have gone back with a cheater because they threatened self-harm. No. When someone tries that crap, that means they made that choice. It's no one else's fault but theirs. Stop getting updates on exes. Don't be friends with exes. When someone becomes an ex, you should ask any mutual people to never talk about them around you. And if they don't know how to respect your wishes, then they aren't your friend and they chose to do that. Quit being in contact with her and anyone who wants to advocate for her. When we move on, we move on. Block her on everything and block anyone who wants to blame you for something she chose. Next story. I'm getting divorced. I don't want to act my age, I want to do whatever I want. I spent my entire life setting that up, and I intend to execute. To start this off, I'm a 34-year-old guy. I've been with my wife for 10 years, but she's slightly older than me at 36. I've been told that I need to start acting my age in our relationship. I own the house, I pay the bills, and I take care of myself physically. To me, that is the very definition of acting my age, being physically and fiscally responsible. It comes down to my hobbies. I play video games, I watch anime, I spend admittedly a little too much time in the gym. I also do MMA training to beat Goku obviously, smoke weed, and until recently, I'd throw having a good intimate life in there as well. This is pretty much what I enjoy doing, and what I will probably always enjoy doing. She, on the other hand, hates pretty much all of these things, regardless of them being constants for literally my entire life. She wants to go to wine tastings and art museums, and explore cities literally all day every day. Basically transition into a bunch of adult hobbies. I have no interest in any of these things and never will, but I should make it known that we go traveling fairly often. We're out of state or country at least every other month, and I definitely go exploring then. She expects me to completely change my hobbies, simply because she's outgrown being able to put up with them. She's also outgrown physical fitness, learning new things. I'm also an avid reader. We used to do a book club style thing twice a month, and having the ability to care what anyone else thinks. She used to be a very kind and caring person. Then after about 7.5 years of being with me, she quit her job, mutual decision so she could pursue her passion and take a break from work stress. And has since grown to be very entitled. Everything very much goes her way or there's hell to pay. I've been working my butt off my entire life to get to the point I'm at now. I was literally homeless at 15 and started from the literal bottom of society. Now I have money, I have time, and I feel great about myself in general, until my wife starts an argument. We've done marriage counseling, had endless talks, and really it hasn't helped at all. So, I'm getting divorced. The most mature thing to do is break it off, as we have very different wants and needs at this point. When I told her this, she suddenly didn't think acting my age was a great thing, and I was totally allowed to do whatever I wanted. No dice. Maybe I'll take some time to myself and write a book. Maybe since my hobbies are so 20s, I'll Tinder up and find an attractive 20-something to smoke with and watch anime with. All I know is I'm 100% over being told that I'm not good enough because I want to watch the new Bleach episodes. Entire thing is dumb. Okay, I think you're making the right move. Because I'm nosy as heck, please tell us how you informed her about the divorce. Are you guys still living together? Have you filed? I'm really curious about the nitty-gritty of how you two are separating. If she's not working, this is gonna be a huge culture shock for her. Juicy. She doesn't work but has plenty of money. I've done very well for myself and set her up as well. She's unlikely to have to work again. We separated today. I got paperwork in order over this week, and it's pretty much taken care of. It's about as amicable as it can be, honestly. I keep all my stuff, she keeps all hers, no alimony and no child support, because no kids. Good for you, man. Life really is too short to let others control what you should or shouldn't enjoy. Check out Chainsaw Man if you haven't. Loving it so far. As someone who has known my spouse since I was 14 and we have grown together, our hobbies have changed over the years. He's still a hardcore musician, but I prefer reading and crocheting at home. Do I still support him when he has gigs? Absolutely. I want to travel internationally, but he has no interest, so I'm planning a trip with his mom, and we are going to England, Ireland, and Scotland, and guess what? He will have to watch our kids up to 2 weeks, just like I did while he was touring. You can still be a couple and enjoy completely separate things. Unfortunately, it seems like her friend group is putting stuff into her head. I wonder what their marriages are like. Lol, I have crocheted at a metal show before, so these things can be combined. Why did she wait till her 30s to start wine tasting and going to art museum? She didn't. We've done wine or paint nights, that sort of thing, a bunch of times and it's always fun. I'm usually into it if there's a fun aspect, like the paint nights where I paint Godzilla instead of a palm tree or whatever. But she wants to move away from the childish fun stuff and be more sophisticated. I don't get along with her new friends because they sort of embody that sophisticated lifestyle, and she doesn't like that. I am sarcastic and silly, and I can do sophisticated if I need to, but I don't want to be that way all the time. Ding ding ding. I had thought, I wonder what her friend group was like. So they are the ones who got into her head. Then you drop divorce, and now I wonder if she drops them. Last story. My husband told my friend he is attracted to her and tried to keep it a secret. My husband recently told one of my friends that he is attracted to her in a way and wanted to keep it private. A few weeks ago, my husband of half a year and I had a conversation about him and my friend and how I had noticed some spark between them while we were in a group with friends. At the time, he said there was nothing to worry about, and I explained how I wasn't concerned and trusted him based on the fact that he confirmed I didn't need to be worried. Fast forward to now. The friend and her husband spent some time with us over the weekend. Yesterday, the day after we saw them, my husband told me he had something to tell me and that it would not be easy for him. Panic sets in, I have anxiety issues, and don't do well with confrontation. He then proceeded to admit to me that he is attracted to my friend, but not strongly, but enough to make him feel awkward when in her company, as he doesn't want to offend her husband or me, by either being too distant and rude to her to avoid the feeling of attraction, or be too attentive and cause glances from the people around us. Instead of talking to me about this first, he texted my friend and confessed that he has this odd attraction, but that it's not very strong, even though I feel that if it wasn't that strong, this wouldn't be an issue to bring up in the first place. He then asked my friend if they could keep his confession private. Points to my friend who told him no, that he should tell me, and that she doesn't keep anything from her husband, and she would be telling him too. I was the last one to find out that all this was happening, and probably wouldn't have at all if my friend hadn't told my husband to tell me. I don't know what to do at this point. Now his awkwardness has led to my embarrassment, my friend and her husband's awkwardness, and me not wanting to be around my friend with her knowing that my husband finds her attractive. I've explained to my husband in the past that I have rejection trauma and don't have a lot of self-confidence. This has made it even worse. I know a lot of it is just my head, but I can't help going down a spiral. I know it's not her fault, and my husband admitted he made a stupid mistake in the way he handled it. Honestly, I wish he just kept his mouth shut altogether. Now for the top advice. My friend's husband came on to me, and I made him tell her. He was definitely trying to smash. Your husband had no reason to say anything to her, other than to feel her out for a possible affair. Keep your eyes open. Yep, he was confident enough in the connection that he could smash behind OP's back. She deserves better. Because you noticed a connection, he thought he was in with a chance with her, and shot his shot. Which failed because your friend is a good friend to you. He wasn't just telling her as a public service announcement, he was telling her to try and get it on with her. He's actively been trying to cheat on you. Okay, just so we are all clear. You do understand that he tried to cheat on you with her. She called him on it and basically forced him to make up this BS story about him feel awkward when in her company, to make it seem like he didn't contact her to see if she was up for it, asking her to keep it quiet. You do see that, don't you? Right. OP, just think about this logically. How in the world would telling her he is attracted to her make him feel less awkward around her? So, what then? Now every time he would see her, she would know he was attracted to her. How is that less awkward? If everything was on the up and up, he would have said nothing or talked to you. His text to her was definitely a way to feel her out, while still having plausible deniability. He really must have worked it up in his mind that the attraction was mutual, and he wanted to test the waters to see if your friend was also a cheater. At least now you know he will go behind your back whenever he's attracted to someone else, and attempt to cheat on you, and make up lies to cover his butt. So, that's his character. You have a hard choice to make. I've found women are more likely to forgive cheating for some reason. If it were me, his stuff would be on the lawn.
30 male husband asked me, 26 female, to sleep with his friend. He left me saying I cheated and I'm pregnant. My husband and I have 2 kids, ages 2 and 4. We married when I was pregnant with a 4-year-old and have been together just over 5 years total. About 6 months ago, my husband asked me to sleep with another man while he watched. I was not 100% comfortable with it, but he asked a few times and I eventually agreed. He had a couple of rules, like whoever I found had to have a recent and clean STI test, because husband didn't want rubbers used. I was on birth control, and he had to set it all up. And that was the extent of my involvement until the event itself. He found a friend willing to do it. Husband said he was sure he wanted this, and begged me to go through with it. I did, and he left within a week, citing this as his reason. He's now telling anyone who will listen that the friend and I cheated. The friend told the truth, but obviously no one believes that my husband asked his friend to sleep with me. If someone had asked me about it, I've told the truth, but no one believes me either. I've been cut off from my husband's family due to this, and as my husband is not currently in contact with me or the kids have been cut off as well, which is hurting them. Most have just gone silent on me, but the few have reached out have not been kind. It was our youngest child's birthday a few days ago, and we arranged to do something with just family. Grandparents, aunts/uncles, cousins, all from my husband's side, and no one came. My brother ended up dropping by, but that was a surprise, as he wasn't invited as I'm low/no contact with most of my family. So my kids have primarily interacted with their dad's family, and that's the side they're more attached to. It's been about 4.5 to 5 months since the friend, and a month ago I found out I was pregnant. I had plenty of action with my husband both before and after, but the fact I also had slept with a friend, and my only protection has clearly failed, cannot be overlooked. I'm now starting to show. I need to know who the father is. My husband isn't speaking to me, not even to discuss a divorce or the kids, and I don't even know where he's living right now. But if I ask the friend to get tested and my husband finds out, this whole situation becomes significantly worse. There are a couple of aspects I need help with, so I'd be grateful for any help on any of them. 1. What do I do about my husband's family, who the kids adore and really want to speak to? 2. What do I do about my husband who is ignoring our kids? 3. What do I do about the baby? Do I talk to the friend first or my husband? Neither of them? Both? What's the safest way to go about this? Now for the top advice. This honestly sounds like a setup. Like he manipulated the situation to make him look like a victim, so he could abandon his family. My ex did cheat on me, but I still maintained contact with children who aren't even mine. I would get a paternity test and then sue for child support. I would also see about getting a lawyer and filing for divorce and have him served with the papers. It's up to the family to maintain a connection with the kids. If you have family, you may want to get your kids in contact with that family. OP, to add on this, do you have any evidence of him asking this? Screenshots discussing it, etc.? I'd get that stuff all lined up. It does seem like he is framing the situation. Does the jurisdictional event penalize a cheating spouse in a divorce? Have your attorney send an anti-spoliation letter requiring your husband to preserve his phone. Also have his friend sign an affidavit detailing the specifics of the encounter. Sounds like he either was looking for an excuse to leave, or after the high from the event wore off, he was so disgusted with himself that he had to project that energy outward, onto you, in order to preserve his fragile ego. Could be both. All I really got from him was that things were different now. The word tainted was used. He was the only guy I had been with before this, so I think it was coming from a place of regret. The fact that he also abandoned your children tells me that he was looking for an excuse to check out of the family before this even happened. Man, you need legal advice. This is slandering, and the way you phrase it, it makes it sound like he was looking for a way out of the relationship. Go get a lawyer. My brother has recommended a lawyer, but I haven't called yet. I plan to, I just want to talk to my husband first. Talk to your lawyer first. Don't talk to your husband. He has shown to be manipulative. You need outside help. He was going to leave you either way. If you did it, he was going to leave you for cheating. If he hadn't done it, he would have said you didn't love him enough. Take it to court. Get the child support your kids deserve. Force a paternity test on him. In some places, it is his child since you are married. I am sorry that he is abandoning his children. You need to be strong for them. I wouldn't force visitation since the family already showed how cruel they are. If you're still married when the baby is born, then it will automatically be his child legally. But if he's not the father, then the other guy will be able to contest if he wants to get a DNA test. Though I have no idea if he would want to. Next story is titled, My fiancé threatened to break up with me if I told her best friend's husband that his wife is cheating on him. I, male 27, have been together with my fiancé, female 28, for 12 years, out of which 3 years we have been engaged. I love her a lot, and everything between us has been great. We do encounter problems now and then, but every long-term couples does, to be fair. The problem we are having right now is not so much to do with us directly, but to do with my fiancé's best friend. I'll call her Betty in this post. Yesterday while going to work, I stopped at a bakery and got some breakfast. Right across the street, I saw Betty with a guy. First, they were just talking and I didn't think much of it, and honestly, I was busy getting my sandwich. I turned around and they were kissing. I got my phone and took a photo. Not the most ethical thing to do, but I thought the husband might need it. I got home, told my fiancé about it, and also shared a photo with her. She told me to delete the photo and just ignore it. I wasn't comfortable with this, and told her that instead I would tell her best friend's husband, because if it was me in his position, I'd like to know too. Her concern with this was that it would really damage her friendship with Betty, and that's why I should stay out of it. I disagreed, and she told me that if Betty's husband found this out from me, I should consider our relationship over. Later that day, my fiancé apologized to me that she didn't mean the breaking up part, but I really shouldn't do this, even though that would be the right thing to do. I was still a little pissed that she would just throw away a 12-year-old relationship just to hide someone else's cheating. So I told her that I would tell the husband everything, and if she wants to break up over this, I'm fine with that. Definitely did not mean the I'm fine with that part, but I probably just said it out of pettiness/spite. I haven't told the husband yet, but all this has me questioning my fiancé's moral values and how she thinks infidelity is okay. Kinda messed up. It's 8 a.m. right now where I live, and I haven't slept all night thinking about my relationship. She did kinda double down on the breaking up part at the end if I proceeded on telling Betty's husband, so I'm very conflicted right now. How do you guys see the situation? Should I tell him knowing that it might end my relationship? $10 that your fiancé has cheated on you in the past and her best friend covered for her. Oh man, I hope not. But I did suspect that too. Opie's fiancé might be thinking that if Opie ruins her best friend's marriage, she might come for her relationship. Opie needs to do the right thing here, and tell the husband if she wishes to find out why his fiancé had a bizarre reaction to a simple problem. Absolutely. Even if that wasn't the case, she expects her BFF to cover for her when she does cheat. And even then, she's very clear that keeping her BFF secret means more to her than your 12-year relationship. And yes, your values are no longer aligned, if it was ever to begin with, which is very important in a relationship. Make what you will of that info, OP. She clearly knew her friend is cheating. If my boyfriend came home and told me my friend is cheating on her husband, I would probably spend hours talking/dishing about it with him. I wouldn't just tell him to ignore it. Her reaction is weird on so many levels. She knew. Now the question is, does she value her friend being a cheater more than your relationship? Or does the friend have something on her? Also, I don't mean to pry, but why are you engaged for so long? Like, is the wedding on the horizon? Her reaction was definitely weird as heck. Today I'll talk to her more about this and see where we both stand on the matter. It's okay. We did intend to get married 2 years ago, but then COVID came around, which forced us to postpone our plans. Both our families lived abroad, and both those countries were on a red list, so we decided to postpone until we can fly them here. How long has she been best friends with Betty? And how well do you know the husband and their marriage? They both have been best friends since primary school. We hang out with them 2 to 3 times a month, and have double dates and good stuff like that. I talk to the husband occasionally, but we are not close friends. Your fiancé may feel that you telling the husband means that she told you about it and this would jeopardize her friendship with the wife. Was your fiancé aware of the affair before you told her? She says that she didn't know, but it did not surprise her when I told her this. Her reaction was more like, meh, which could be that she didn't care or that Betty cheats so much that she thought, oh, a new guy again. I don't know which one is it. Next story. My 27 male female friend 27 female who rejected me is upset at my response time as of late. So I had a long heart-to-heart with my best friend and basically told her I loved her, which was true. She told me she wasn't a girl for me and to put my energy elsewhere. We still talk. I did just that. I downloaded a dating app and I'm talking to a girl who's very interested in me, so I'm giving her the same energy and attention back. I play video games with my friends or go to the gym every single day on top of working. As a result, I don't have a lot of time to text. I don't want to give my energy and attention to the girl who views me as a romantic option. I always get back to my friend at least once a day, or she will randomly stop texting me for over a day when she gets busy. I can tell from her attitude it's pissing her off. Like, she just expects me to reply instantly when she doesn't give me the same respect back. Why do I need to drop what I'm doing because she decided to break her radio silence she randomly gives me at an inopportune time? I'm a pretty easygoing and friendly guy, but she's honestly getting on my nerves. And I can tell I'm getting on hers. Should I just tell her I don't want to text anymore if this is the vibe? I'm not playing games with her. I just don't have time to text her sometimes because they're long messages. I play Warzone with my friends, and if I see the girl I'm dating texted me, I'll always answer her message first. She ignored me all of Friday. So I got back to her later on Saturday since I was drinking with the boys Friday, and haven't heard back from her since. Now for the advice. Stop putting so much pressure on this. Just do your thing. Text her when you have time and don't when you don't. Don't make it into a big thing. Alright, thanks. So if she messages me back tomorrow, I should just reply when I have a chance? Yes. This is how friendship works. You're living separate busy lives. Don't intentionally ignore her, but you can only text when you're not busy. This is basic stuff. Don't be dramatic about it. You don't owe her an explanation. She needs to understand boundaries. If she addresses it, play it off in a playful manner. Thanks. I have a group chat with my friends, and sometimes I'll answer a question like, you guys have room for me on the team? She'll take notice of my Facebook last active activity. You had said that you can tell that she doesn't like this and never mentioned a specific thing she said. I'm going to assume she hasn't said anything to you directly. If she has an issue, it is her responsibility to say something. It is not your responsibility to read between the lines and guess at what is happening. You can accept what she says at face value and move forward. If she doesn't respond to you for however long, don't assume it's about you. Just let her do her. Focus on you. I've known her for more than half my life. She isn't very direct and will never say what's on her mind, but she'll change how she acts. We don't hang out anymore because her boyfriend hates me. Her fault. He hated me before I even knew of him because she used me to make him jealous and kept me as a backup option, and I'm not comfortable having that in my life. It's a boundary she respects. But she's acting very different lately and not texting me back. She plays games. Now for the last story. I think my boyfriend is in love with his girl best friend and is in denial. What should I do? I'm female 24, my boyfriend is male 21. We've been together for about 4 months. He has had a best friend for 11 years who was also my best friend for 3 years, when we met through college. She sets me up with my current boyfriend now. I've always had a weird gut feeling in regards to their relationship. They used to have sleepovers, go on movie dates, dinner dates, etc. When we got into a relationship, his girl best friend got angry with me because they no longer did those things which I find inappropriate considering he's now in a relationship. So she no longer talks to me, however, I didn't take anything out on him. After seeing her reactions, I asked to set healthy boundaries, such as types of conversations you guys should be having, where it is appropriate and when it is appropriate for you guys to be hanging out, etc. Every time she comes up, my boyfriend gets very defensive. He has seen her addressed. He always prioritizes her feelings over mine, texts her and harasses her at hours such as 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. He has blown off our dinner plans for her before just to hang out. After telling him how I felt about my gut feeling and how it's making me a little uncomfortable, he looked at me dead in the face and said, I don't care. I'm never gonna stop being friends with her, so you need to deal with it. which I never ask him to not be. I simply ask for healthy boundaries to be set in our relationship, because their relationship is a little too close. He continues to gaslight me day in and day out, saying that she's like a sister, which could possibly be true, but given the actions that I've been seeing makes me wary. He also has lied to me, saying that he was getting ready to come see me, but he was actually hanging out with her. Something in my gut is telling me that he is in love with her and is either in denial or simply does not want to confess his feelings because he knows she doesn't have the same for him, and he will destroy that friendship. It's hard for me to move forward with him when he keeps prioritizing her over me. She recently stopped talking to him, and he's been blowing up her phone every day since, saying that he will go and move mountains to reach her, and that she can block him and everything, and he'll go and find her MySpace just to message her. I would really appreciate some advice and input on the situation in regards to what I should do. Why are you still with him? For what reason are you tormenting yourself? He plainly focuses on her over you and expressed in your face. For what reason are you remaining while at the same time realizing that he esteems his closest companion more than you? Simply leave the relationship before he cheats or leaves you for her. They both sound in denial. Tell him you never ask him to stop being friends with her, but the context of their relationship is not friends even if they don't see it. Prioritizing anyone over their significant other, cuddling, lying to the significant other, are all signs they're more than friends, unless he is doing the exact same things, and at the same frequency with his guy friends as he does with her. Then move on, as you can never be in a good position between them. You gotta leave this dude and his girlfriend alone. Don't be a second option. But I am the girlfriend. She's the girl best friend who keeps overstepping boundaries that he keeps allowing it. He always prioritizes his girl best friend's feelings over mine. That's my point. Break up with him. Do you seriously want to be second in your relationship? You know he puts her first and you deserve better. The longer you stay, the worse it's going to be for you. He has an unhealthy obsession, it sounds like. I thought about breaking up with him all morning. It's getting to the point where every time I think of this situation, I am getting physically sick. I just keep thinking maybe I am wrong. And maybe she's like a sister to him, which is why I created a post, to hopefully get everyone's opinions on if I'm crazy and overthinking, or if I'm simply right and my gut feeling is trying to tell me something.
It's been 5 years since he killed us. It was a good Saturday, like a really good one. Everyone woke up in a good mood and everything was going well. Our children were especially happy because I was making them fun-shaped pancakes. He played with them while I cooked. We had a wonderful breakfast together. We went to the park that afternoon. They played and we talked. He said he loved me and was happy. He was happy, and so was I, our children happy and healthy. I thought life couldn't get any better. We got back home and we ordered in. We laughed at the table. Our youngest daughter discovered she loved mushrooms even though they looked weird to her at first. After dinner, we played with them and made a mess of our living room. But it was a good mess, a happy mess. We put the kids to bed early and watched TV. I fell asleep on the couch. Then I woke up around midnight. I went to our bedroom and he wasn't there. I checked the kids' bedroom. Then I went back to our bedroom thinking that he went out to get a bite or something. I tried to sleep but I couldn't. After an hour of waiting, I called him. At first the phone rang like normal. The second time I called, it went straight to voicemail. He didn't come home that night, and that morning I discovered that a lot of his things were missing. I called everyone we knew. No one knew where he was. I didn't speak to him for over a week. If you can call a single text saying "don't contact me" as speaking. Then he finally spoke to his sister, as she had threatened to contact the police if he didn't. She was the one to tell me he's never coming back and that he wants a divorce. A few days after that, I was contacted by the law firm he had hired. A year later, we were divorced. I didn't once see him, nor did his 4 kids. I was blindsided by this because we were happy. He even agrees we were happy. I was heartbroken, and it would be a lie not to say that I am still wounded. Then after 5 years of no contact, he wants to talk. Says he misses his kids, and now he regrets destroying us. Destroying our children. He killed us for nothing. He destroyed our children. They cried for him every day. They reached out to him on social media, but he blocked them. They called him and he would block them more. They watched him live a life without them, a life where there was no space for them. But now he misses them, and he wants his family back. I can never forgive him. He doesn't get a second chance to break our hearts. There is no redemption and there is no reconciliation for him. Edit. When he left, we spoke only through lawyers or through his sister, who hates his guts. And occasionally I would hear about him from the wives of his 2 former friends. When asked by all these people, his answer was always, "I just wanted a new start. I wanted things to be different. I wanted new experiences." When asked if he was happy in the marriage, he would say he was happy. He always said our marriage was a good one, and he never spoke badly about me. It always kills me to hear that because I can accept him being unhappy, but hearing he broke our hearts just because he wanted something different just really breaks me into pieces. As for the was there another woman question, yes there were, apparently there were many. I found that out during the divorce process, as I never suspected him of cheating. So I had to have it spelled out to me by my lawyers. He couldn't even be there in the room, so he zoomed in from the cruise he was on with his then new woman. He pretty much dated a new woman every few months. The younger women he was chasing rarely dated him, and if they did, they were done with him within a month. Then on to the next one. He tried to live a life way beyond his means and abilities. That's pretty much how he got himself into financial difficulties. Then he got engaged to his old colleague who I actually knew. She broke up with him because he wouldn't stop cheating on her, which was ironic since she was hooking up with him when he was a married man. I don't understand what she expected to be different. I know that the past 2-ish years haven't been easy for him, as he lost his job, his cars, and was foreclosed on. I know he isn't coming back for genuine reasons, but because being with me and the kids was the last time he was really happy. He wants the familiarity of us, not because he loves us and is remorseful. Now for the top comments. They reached out to him on social media, but he blocked them. They called him and he would block them more. There's some things that simply can't be forgiven, and this is one of them. That's literally one of the most painful things a parent could do to you, purposefully choose to cut you off. It shows they don't care if you're alive or dead. Screw your ex-husband, your children, and you deserve a happy life. And child support. I hope he is paying the child support. Not likely considering. He is a trash human. He is trash financials per OP. You are right on the money. He paid for the first 6 months and then started to avoid paying and was always in arrears. Eventually, he stopped paying altogether. He owes me over $80,000 in child support. I used to manage all our finances, so without me, he quickly spiraled into debt. From what I know through his sister, he is in debt for nearly $200,000. The majority of that debt was due to him opening a restaurant and bar right before the pandemic hit, and by the mid-2020, it had to close down. Are your children aware? What do they think? I am sorry for you. I would never come back from this either. It takes major audacity to pull this crap. I don't think the kids should be aware just yet. Not sure how old they are now, but when they are 18, OP should give them his info and let them know they can contact him if they so choose. In the meantime, take note of him reaching out now, so when the kids are old enough, they know exactly when he went from blocking them on social media and hanging up on them, to deciding he deserved to have them in his life. He will try and make it out as though OP kept them from being in touch. And if they aren't already, get some therapy for the kids. As a child who was in a similar situation to OP's children, I highly disagree. OP shouldn't badmouth him to her children, but she also shouldn't keep things from them. Our mother never spoke terribly of him, but she was always very transparent when we had questions. I'd have felt so betrayed if my mother knew how terrible he was in everything he'd done, but kept it all from us. It's better to be prepared for the type of person he is than to have it sprung upon you all at once when you're finally an adult. It can be extremely difficult to process. I'm extremely grateful that my mother always answered our questions objectively and never tried to hide anything from us. I honestly can't imagine how difficult it would have been if she hadn't told us anything, and then when we're adults to finally say here's your father's information, you can contact him now, and then hear who knows what from him. And in my case, when he finally reached out to me as an adult, he spun the most atrocious lies about how he tried so hard to be in our lives, but our mother prevented it. I think OP should be clear with her children and answer all questions they might have. Obviously within reason, but I absolutely 100% disagree with keeping it from them until they come of age. That can be so damaging. And I agree completely with some commenter, it's an excellent way to alienate her kids if she doesn't keep them informed, again within reason. But yes to therapy. I think putting them in therapy as children to help them process everything safely would be an excellent idea. I do not badmouth him at all. My kids like you really had their heart broken by him repeatedly. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't need to. Just like you, my kids begged me to call him, and we did many times, and he would literally block our numbers, and if we managed to get through, he immediately would shout at me saying, "Anything you need to tell me, you tell it to my lawyer," and that was when he was being polite. When my oldest got a phone, he called him regularly, and even created himself a fake Instagram account, because ex-husband had him blocked. He figured out with a friend of his where he lived at the time, and they went. His dad literally shut the door in his face. My son never even told me. I only found out because his friend was worried about him. Eventually, after all the heartache, they just gave up reaching out to him. It's one thing to want to end your marriage, it's another thing to be so cruel to your own flesh and blood. My father did that to us. I was 14, my brothers were 16, 12, 10, and 8. We grew up, got married, had kids. Try explaining to your kids that yes, they do have a grandfather, but they'll never know him. My dad is in his 70s now and all alone. And now he wants to see us and meet his grandchildren. He doesn't want to be an old man and die alone. We all told him to F off. Next story. My daughter's bully married into our family. If you or someone you know are struggling with an eating disorder or self-harm, please seek assistance in your battle. You are not alone. My daughter was a sophomore when the bullying began. I'm unsure why Ella and her friends began targeting her. They made comments about her body, her nose, everything. My daughter developed an eating disorder and began to rapidly lose weight because of the intense exercises and long fasting periods she forced herself to endure. Ella and her friends showed no mercy though and continued to harass my daughter. My daughter began engaging in destructive behaviors and at one point was hospitalized. It took a lot of fighting, but I was able to get the school to punish these girls for my daughter's suffering. When my daughter graduated, I thought Ella would be a person of her past. But then her older brother began dating her when my daughter was wrapping up her 3-year in university. It hurt my daughter so much that her brother would date someone who tormented her so closely to death. There were nights where would cry herself to sleep, wondering why this was going on. It hurt me as a mother to watch this happen. My son ended up marrying Ella. I have allowed this, but kept my distance from Ella. I recently hung out with my daughters-in-law and daughter without inviting Ella. I have 3 other sons, and 2 of them are also married. At a recent gathering, one of my daughter-in-law expressed gratitude because I had given her an opportunity to get out of the house because of stress with the kids. I planned a girls' night out with my daughter and 2 other daughters-in-law, and we kept this secret from Ella. Ella eventually got the full story out of my eldest son and was hurt. She asked me what she had ever done to make me treat her differently from the others, so I let her have it. I told her that her treatment of my daughter in their high school years is why I will never view her as a member of this family. I told her that I had already been kind enough to allow her to be near my family and that she should not push her luck. She left with my son, and he later told me that she cried herself to sleep that night. Ella never gave a proper apology to my daughter for the damage she had done. She even jokes about their past in the form of dark humor. I fear my son may go no contact, but I will not chase him because he chose this awful person over his sister. She hasn't been doing it anymore, but there were no attempts to make amends either. Why did her brother start dating her? Didn't he know the trauma she caused? Right. The brother is a POS for even associating with that person in the first place. She ruined his sister's self-esteem and self-image. It's messed up. My sister married my stalker and gave him access to my life. Some siblings really just don't care. It's sick. This reminds me of my ex-roommate's sister, who married the guy who assaulted her. They had 3 kids and are still together to this day. I was always distant when going to their house with my roommate, never comfortable in that house at all. She talks about it with dark humor. Isn't that what the victim does to cope, not the one who caused the trauma? Good on you for choosing your daughter over this woman. And if your son goes no contact, it'll hurt, but it's for the best. He chose to marry the woman who nearly tormented your daughter to death knowingly, and that's so gross. If I was his sister, I would never forgive that. Ella can cry herself to sleep all she wants. Sounds like she deserves to cry. Right. I audibly said you can't be freaking serious upon reading that line. She cannot be that daft or detached from reality that she thinks this family forgot what she did to a member of them almost to death, especially if she thinks she can joke about it to this family too. Crazy thing is, most bullies are that daft. The majority of them don't actually remember being awful because that's too hard to cope with. So the brain will rewire the memory so they aren't the bad guy. Try confronting any of your high school bullies. You'll probably will get something along the lines, "I'm sorry you felt way about it, but I don't remember us ever having a problem." Not sure who is worse here, your son or his wife. Boo frickin' who that she cried herself to sleep. Deal with it. She's a menace, she still won't apologize because she's not sorry. As an adult, if you did crappy things and you get the opportunity to apologize, you do it. If you don't, it shows lack of growth and maturity. She's still the mean girl by joking about it. Horrible behavior has consequences, but instead, she'll blame you or most likely your daughter. Last story. My son wants to be a part of my life again, and I don't know if I should let him. My 41 male family situation is a bit difficult. My ex-wife and I have been together for many years. During these years, our life was okay. It wasn't perfect, but good enough that we decided to have children. She had been horrible towards me basically the entire time. But being the naive guy I was, I thought it would be a normal thing and got used to it. This is important later. We had 2 children, my daughter 21 female and my son 19 male. Over the years when we grew up, our house started to get 2 different camps with totally different interests. It would be my daughter and me, and my son and his mom. I always bonded better with my daughter than with him as we shared many interests. And the same applied to my son and his mother. He was an absolute mama's boy. These camps soon turned into rivalries that also caused huge arguments here and there, and not rarely my ex-wife would get physical. Over the years I suppressed my own emotions because I knew that if I'd let them happen, I'd probably end up leaving my wife, and I never wanted my children to grow up with their parents separated. I always thought to myself that since she never got physical when the children were there, they hopefully wouldn't get traumatized by it. And I took it for many years, but then something happened that went far beyond the borders. 3 years ago, my daughter introduced her girlfriend to us, and she officially came out as lesbian. My ex-wife and my son reacted so insanely hostile towards that I decided that I had enough. Incredibly homophobic comments, and my son once even slapped her. I filed for divorce, and I moved with my daughter into our own home. I was financially stable to take care of her, and I knew that she deserved a loving environment no matter what. Shortly afterwards, my son began to spread the rumor that my ex-wife filed for divorce because I allegedly cheated on her, and for some reason many people believed him, except for my daughter and some really good friends. I felt hurt and betrayed. Every attempt of calling him and talking to him about this failed, and I decided to take the drastic step and disinherit him from my will as a consequence, and go no contact since he didn't want to talk to me anyway. He was still in his mother's will, so I thought he was fine. By doing this, I also cut the contact with my ex-wife. My daughter was surprisingly fine with this. I thought she would miss her brother and her mom more often, but she didn't. I saw how happy she was with her girlfriend who visited us several times, and for 3 years we didn't hear from them. Fast forward to yesterday when I received a call from my son. He somehow found out my number. He said that he knows that he probably doesn't deserve the chance, but if he could come over to talk. I was still angry at him, but since he is my son, I decided to at least give him a chance to explain himself. When he came over, I noticed that he had bruises on his face. I sat him down on the couch when he started slowly apologizing. His face was completely without any emotion at first, and then all of a sudden he broke down crying, telling me how sorry he was and that he wants to be with me. He explained that when I left, she began mistreating him too. She would often beat him and blame him for everything that happened. He said he is also sorry for the homophobic BS towards his sister and just wishes to hug her and apologize. She wasn't home at the time. He said that he did it because he was angry at me for allegedly tearing apart the family. That's what he thought all that time was the truth, but now he knows that it was wrong. I told him that I understand him when it comes to his mother because I was in a similar position, but I also need time to think about this and ask his sister first before I do anything. He wiped the tears from his face and nodded. He then gave me his number and left. And now I am ambiguous. He is my son, but on the other hand, he hurt and betrayed me really bad. What I have to do is to talk to my daughter about this. If she agrees to let her brother live with us, then I consider it. But only then. Now for the advice. I feel like he's a victim and at least has diminished responsibility for his actions. Not saying he's completely innocent, so maybe the best way to help is getting him somewhere safe, whether that's with you or somewhere else, and into some therapy. And he was around 16 when he took sides after being, I guess, indoctrinated. When I was 16, I was very emotional and prone to taking sides in my parents' relationship issues, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with those decisions now. In any event, he's looking for help, and he desperately needs it. Well, he definitely can't continue living with her. If he can't move in with you, arrange for him to stay with a family member, or pay rent for a room somewhere if you can afford it. Don't think of it as a betrayal. Your wife twisted him since childhood. He was manipulated. I agree. It's really hard, and what did was horrible. But he's also a victim of your ex-wife. It's a great thing that at 19, he has finally come to his senses and to make amends. Lol, how about taking some responsibility instead of pinning it all on your wife? You raised him too, or you should have. Most people just shouldn't even have kids. Edit. So many of you misunderstood what I said. You assumed I'd just let him stay with his horrible mom. No, I do not. That wasn't the question. Of course I'm going to help him getting out of there. The question is if I let him stay with us. I might be able to forgive him, but if my daughter says she feels unsafe with him around, I help him finding a different place to stay. Currently he stays with a friend, so he's safe. Back then, he wanted to stay with his mom, and he was the one that initiated the no contact by not answering any of my calls and completely deleting me out of his life. And considering she never was physically harming him or my daughter, I assumed she is able to control herself towards her children. And I truly thought it would be way less traumatizing if their parents would stay together, because I know what it's like growing up between separated parents. I only did what I thought was the best for them, and I know that I was wrong there. But calling me a horrible parent for not immediately reconciling and putting my daughter's concerns first isn't right either. I do want to help him no matter the outcome. He is still my son, but letting him stay with me is something that I simply have to talk through with my daughter.